them as authorities, whether it's the President of the United States, the head of your church, or whatever. You don't have to look to these people to find out what's really going on in the world or in the universe. You need to consult your own heart, and you need to, meditate and get in touch with the universal mind, and that's where you get your information, not from, some father figure. And, there's a whole change in the paradigm of religion that's going on beneath the surface with all of this stuff.
Right. You're saying, fine, they're positioning themselves so that they're essentially going to use the chaos to their advantage, and as the old expression goes, in chaos is opportunity. What is the opportunity, Carrie?
Well, apparently the opportunity is, first of all, if you're not prepared for something, whether it be Planet X, a kill shot from the sun, or any other number of things, including biological, weapons that get released in different areas of the world, then you can't save yourself, can you? And you can't save your families. So ultimately, they get their population reduction because people, start rebelling, they have riots, they go crazy, people die. All of this goes on. And then you can also institute things like martial law in the United States. You can crack down on the Internet. You can give good reason, just like the Patriot Act. What you're talking about is, the problem solution thing that David Icke always talks about, which, they're basically creating a scenario in which they can take over and clamp down even tighter and do it with a reduced amount of, human beings on the planet.
So let's take a look at it from this other standpoint. If they set this up for sheer absolute chaos, the chaos occurs on the surface. It's not going to occur in the deep underground bases that have been built all over the world that you've documented so thoroughly in your research. So essentially what they're doing is, if everyone is in a complete zombie panic, eat each other's throats out kind of mode on the surface, it's going to keep them from digging down and trying to get into the underground bases. How does that sound for a theory?
Well, these people are, according to our Norway contact, he knew that he was going to be called up. He knew that his family had a slot, basically in the underground base, to be called up right before whatever event is coming down the pike. This is the kind of thinking that goes on. These bases are built for the elite. They're we have a contact in Colorado, I think we can say, it's a big enough state, that is giving us inside information, that has told us about the Queen of England and her people related to her building underground bunkers in Colorado. He's also talking about, he has contacts in deep black projects in a number of places around the world that are talking to him about Planet X and the approach of whether it's called a brown dwarf. We just we don't know the details, but basically he is also talking about this. He's talking about the telescope in Antarctica that is basically, he's trying to get information.
What he said to us, and when we first spoke to him a few months ago, he sent us a letter by snail mail, and it was just a little paragraph in there. He said that he was going to try and get trajectories from the SPT, the South Pole Telescope, and it was just a tiny part of a much longer message. And we get strange messages from people all the time, just as you do, and so, we logged it, just as you described, and we waited to see what would happen next. Now, eventually, we met with this guy, and he gave us a lot more information about that. And what was really credible to us was that he said, I've been trying to get trajectories, and I haven't been able to get them yet, and he was irritated by that, because he's got some indirect source that he has been trying to get this information from. So he didn't deny it, he didn't elaborate, he didn't tell a wild story, he didn't say, I got these trajectories, but I lost a piece of paper. He didn't say anything like that at all. He just simply said, I'm still trying to get those trajectories, and I'll let you know when I've got them.
Right.
And that had the smell of credibility to us, that simple report about his non-progress on what he wanted, which was a very rational and sane little piece of investigation on his part, because it's like, that's what we we want. We want trajectories, And if nothing exists, there won't be anything at all, So let's go for the trajectories. That convinced me that this guy certainly believed at quite a deep level that there was something going on that he was trying to check into. And, it's just more circumstantial evidence. It's another person with a convincing story whose name we can't reveal. It just sounds like there's something going on down there. I met with Henry Deacon ago. We were sitting having a Big Mac in McDonald's, for goodness sake, and he just suddenly stopped and he looked at me and he gave me a funny look and he said, "What do you think they built a telescope at the South Pole for?" It's a rhetorical question, And I said, well, I said, Planet X, of course, that's what all the evidence suggests. And he said, what? He said, you just answered your own question. Because that's the way he talks.
Like Oracle or something. Yeah. And then give us clues as to the answer. It's kind of like how he was trained not to answer anything too directly. Although he's certainly done so more and more. It's quite interesting.
Yeah, it's almost as if anyone put him on a polygraph, then he could answer truthfully that he never told us something. What he does is ask us questions, and then he nods when we come up with the right answer, is that kind of stuff.
Right.
And all this is just another credible source who's pointing us in a particular direction.
But I have to say that we ourselves are not convinced of, whether it's Planet X or a brown dwarf. We do believe there is an anomalous object out there, but we are still maintaining to some degree impartiality as much as possible, because what we are is investigators. We are bringing the evidence forward as it comes to us and as we find it. These latest occurrences with Lucas Cantamburlo, Cristoforo Babato, then our interview with Zagami indicates that there is something around the Planet X thing that is so intense. There is such a pent-up amount of energy around that it's either true or it's absolute disinfo, but it's disinfo with some kind of very important target in mind. And really we're still on the case. We have not reached a conclusion.
Yeah.
Guys, I have to say that my position has always been, we're going to know what Planet X is when we're all standing out in our backyards pointing up at the sky and pooping our collective pants. And that's when it's going to be. And until then, it could be any number of things. I have to agree with you. But the one thing I would say about this whole topic of Planet X Nibiru is, first off, we do have a huge amount of folklore documentation in terms of wisdom text that talks about it. In the Colburn Bible we published, the ancient Egyptians tell us this looks like nothing else we have ever seen or will see. This is a very different looking beastie. What we're seeing with the Nibiru shock video is that it's a large object, probably a very cold brown dwarf with numerous satellites. It could be anything. It could be anything. We're going to know because we understand the presence of it by the way it's interacting with the other bodies in our solar system and our sun. Everything's lighting up. And it's an interesting thing to note. NASA has already said that this solar cycle we've just entered into, which we entered into it, by the way, 3 months ahead of schedule, this next solar maximum is going to peak in 2012. And after that, the sun, its activity is going to slack off, and they're actually saying it could slack off so much that we're really looking at the possibility of a mini ice age or an ice age.
Yeah.
So in other words, that really, indicates, hey, something's coming, if you will. It's got the pedal to the metal, and once it passes out of the solar system, that's it. It turned off the fuel valve and coast for a while.
Yeah. We have another source. This is somebody who we hadn't mentioned before, and we haven't publicized. We haven't met him. We had a 4.5-hour phone conversation with the guy and some email correspondence. He was one of the sources who